Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family History Review Show by Find My Past. If you are new around here, we're doing these every Wednesday afternoon for the duration of the BBC's Who Do You Think You Are? Usually talking about last night's episode, but it was early this week, so we're talking about Monday's episode starring Layton Williams. So hopefully that extra day has given you a time to watch it and avoid any spoilers, because Ellie and I do like to give a little warning that I was going to say maybe spoilers. There will be spoilers in these. So please make sure you have watched the episodes. As I say, that extra day should hopefully have given them a bit of a chance, Ellie.
I think so, yeah. But I think I don't know whether our audience are like me. If even if I'm like, oh no, I don't want spoilers, I don't want spoilers. Chances are I'm so curious that I'll end up spoiling myself anyway on purpose. But yeah, we will be talking all about last night's, I made a mistake, Monday night's episode of Who Do You Think You Are today. If you're new here, hello. Lovely to have you with us. We are Ellie and Liam. We work for family history company Find My Past, based here in the UK. If you're joining us live, please do let us know where you're tuning in from today, how you're getting on, what research you're working on, if you've seen the episode yet, that sort of thing. And if you're watching on catch up, please leave a comment anyway and let us know what you thought of the episode. It was quite a good one, I thought.
It was, yeah. I think I say this every time we do one of these, but it was still very different to anything that we've had so far, I think. I think the topics that were covered, the locations that were covered, just the general vibe of the celebrity in question as well, I think they've all been so different. They've all been so good. Judging by the Facebook comments, I think everyone feels the same, that it's been a really good series so far. So yeah, long may it continue.
Do you know what it has? And I want to echo the comments of somebody who did leave a comment on our post about that on Monday, which was, yesterday, which was Pat. And Pat said that it's so nice to see them, rather than focusing on just family tree charts and names and dates and that getting as far back as you can go. It's really nice to see them dig a little bit deeper into the stories, into the context. And for me and for us here at Find My Past, that's what family history is all about. And I think what this series is doing quite well, it's finding that nice balance, I think, of context, of stories, of doing a little bit of a little tree, going into the records, visiting places. It's ticking a lot of boxes for me, basically, is what I wanted to say. But yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with what you said, Pat. I think it's great to see.
yeah, absolutely. Say it is what Find My Past tries to do. We've got so many nice features on the website that tries to add that colour. Obviously, we've got the newspapers, we've got the maps, we're focusing on the stories, on the locations. So yeah, like I say, it is really nice to see them do that in Who Do You Think You Are? And it is, I know some people would like them to sit down and get back as far back as possible, which is nice as well. But like you say, for TV purposes, for entertainment purposes, and like you say, for us here, yeah, it's really nice to see them really digging deeper, really pulling all sorts of random record sets out of the woodwork as well, and finding so much about the ancestors. And what I like about this series as well, I think that maybe has happened more this season than previous ones, is that they seem to be going horizontal as much as they are vertical as well. We're talking about great grandfather's siblings and things like that. So I really like you say, we've got all the stories, but they're not just your grandfather did this, your great grandfather did that. They're talking about his brother, about her sister, her in laws, whatever it might be. I think that's a nice angle that it's followed on this one as well.
I completely agree. It's that fan research, so friends, associates, and neighbours. And rather than just focusing on your direct line, I think you're missing a trick sometimes if you don't research the siblings, if you don't research the cousins, because, and I was having this conversation with another colleague yesterday in a meeting actually, and we were talking about the importance of fan research. And say you're researching your great grandfather, but you hit a bit of a wall, you can't really find any more records for him. But if you research his sister, she might be in the newspapers. She might have found herself in trouble with the law, for example. She might have, been a musician. And just by stepping horizontally and researching that person instead, that can actually tell you a whole lot more about your direct ancestors' life and their context and their world. and it can give you extra clues. So don't miss out, basically. If you're stuck, stop going backwards and go sideways.
Absolutely. Was it Jen Baldwin, the colleague you were talking to fan research about by any chance?
I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, of course it was.
It's been a while since we had fan research on here with Jen, so I just thought a little throwback for the loyal watchers.
We should probably delve in. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our review of Layton Williams's episode of Who Do You Are, but make sure you stick around to the end because we'll be sharing our 5 things that we learn, our 5 top tips from the episode, which you want to stick around for. So yeah, good stuff.
Absolutely. I think one thing about this episode, and I've said it on previous ones as well, is that I feel like when people are starting off in this series, they have a lot more information than previous series. I don't know if maybe family history is just so much more popular. I know this particular family, they had the genealogist. I think it was his aunt that had done a lot of research. So I think that initial bit when they're sitting down with their own family, there's so much more information coming back then. There's great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents involved before the episode even starts, which I really like. And that bit, as well as knowing that there's a family historian in the family, I really like seeing the family photos as well and the records that the aunt had pulled out and everything. So I really like I say, I've said it multiple times because it seems to be a bit of a recurring theme this series. But yeah, the research that's available before they get going, I've been enjoying that side of things.
Well, family history is so much more accessible now with more records online, more newspapers online. It's easier, and chances are every family has a family historian. So if my advice would be, based on this episode, if you are just starting out, if you're thinking about starting your family tree, before you do anything, go and see if there's another family historian in the family. Because, okay, while you might not want to go, okay, they've done it, that means I don't have to, you can certainly compare notes. You will probably find discrepancies. You will probably go, oh, I don't know, and question things, but that's totally natural. Like, have that conversation, pull your resources, and it'll make it more fun as well, because it's quite fun when we do family history together. I find it's sometimes quite a lonely hobby, but if you've got somebody that you can bounce off, that'll be fun.
Yeah, because I think sometimes when you're telling your family about family history, even though it's their relatives too, you do need the juicy stuff to really get their attention. Whereas, like, say, if you've got that family historian in the family already, you can kind of nerd out with them in a sense and just kind of exchange notes back and forth. So yeah, that is really cool, I think.
Yeah, sometimes you do find, I don't know if anybody else feels the same, but you personally get really interested in it, and then you start talking to other family members and they're sort of, their eyes just glaze over and they're just not as into it as you are, and that's fine. Not everybody has to be into everything. However, what I would say to that is, and this is absolutely no shade, this is no shame on it, it's just I don't think many people outside of maybe our little genealogy community, I don't know, have you really taken the time to think about your family history? Have you thought about the people that came before you? You don't have to. As I said, it's not for everybody. But if you do, I think it's immensely rewarding. And there's a whole world of stories out there that are just waiting for you to sort of like tap into. And a lot of things might have passed out of living memory. It's a particular culture where they say that you die twice, once when you actually die, and second when the last person who remembers you forgets you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that applies here a little bit. I think it's quite rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially watching Who Do You Think You Are, you're getting people who may never really have done their family history. Like Layton Williams probably would never have sat down on a Sunday night and opened up Find My Past, for example, but you could see what it meant to him to find out about his ancestors. And yeah, I think we've said before, it's always a really good advert for the hobby. I think seeing the connection that these people make to their ancestors, like you're saying, I think it's always a nice aspect of the show as well.
Absolutely. I loved the World War One side, the World War Two side of the episode. I loved that they had the postcard that his great grandfather, I think, that sent, was it 2 times great grandfather? I think it was 2 times great grandfather. that had been sent from France. And that's a really good sort of jumping off point. If you've got something like that and you want to find out the story behind it, start with that, because that's a tangible piece of the past that you have a tangible connection to your ancestor. Go research it, see what you can find. It might be nothing, it might be very little, or with the help of the Who Do You Think You Are experts, Layton found loads, found out that his ancestor was a remount rider in the army, that he trained horses, that he was probably a really good horseman, that he was at the evacuation of Dunkirk, which just blows my mind, actually. I think that would have. I think it's a part of the Second World War that's sometimes overlooked, and yeah, I think it was nice to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, just going back to the remount rider, it was the same with Ross Kemp's episode, finding out about what the drummer did on the ships. That's another aspect or another role in the military or the armed forces that I had never thought about. I knew obviously horses were used heavily World War One, World War Two, but I never really thought about it much. So hearing about the role that he played, I thought that was really interesting as well. Like we always say, you learn so much about history as a whole from these episodes too. And yeah, just little things like that, like hearing what he was doing with the horses, how celebrated he was in his field as well. I thought that was really interesting, and it's a different kind of military ancestor as well when you hear the different jobs that these people were doing from start to finish.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I felt like as I was watching the episode, I kept wanting to go and look up records for all the people that they were talking about in their specific context and things like that. And yeah, it was always like I was looking up the thing about the bankruptcy from William Downing / Dowling. He appears as both in records, I seem to find. Yeah, I'm just going to go let the dog out. I'll be 2 seconds.
That's all right. The joys of having pets on a live broadcast. But yeah, just going back to what Ellie said about the bankruptcy, Karen says that she found a case, she found it interesting, I should say, as her third great-grandfather went to jail, the same jail in 1848 for bankruptcy as well. And yet something that comes up a lot. I remember in customer service, the gazettes were always quite a popular record set. I find it quite funny in the episode when Layton was saying that was like the gossip column of the day almost, when people are sitting in the pub or in the cafe or whatever and maybe gossiping about people that they knew that were in the bankruptcy as well. So yeah, I think those records are always quite interesting. They can be quite sad. I thought Layton kind of saw the sad side of that particularly, but yeah, it's an interesting one as well. And you know, if your ancestors had their own business, unfortunately the gazettes may well be a good record set depending on circumstances.
Yeah, I'm finding more and more that the Gazette is it's not necessarily, sometimes it's not very detailed. I find sometimes they're just entries, but you get the slightly longer ones that are quite detailed, whether it's a change of name, whether it's a business closing down. You can sometimes get addresses, you can sometimes get business partners. Good for things like military appointments and promotions and things like that. So it sort of helps you, if you've got a military ancestor, you can sort of trace their career a little bit more. And I find that you sometimes need to take them and piece them with other things. That's, I think, where they're most valuable. The other thing was, like, how cool was it that they were able to find like a musical connection for Layton? You know, he's a musical theatre star. I actually remember, fun fact, when he was in Bad Education, the TV series, one of his co-stars I actually was at university with, and we used to star in like small productions and stuff together. It's one of my claims to fame.
Yeah, it was funny because that's the only thing I think I've seen about it. The only thing I can remember him being in is Bad Education. So yeah, I didn't know you had a connection to that show as well. So
I've got quite a few little sorts of connections like that, but that's by the by. Yeah, the piano tuner connection was really nice, and the fact that it meant that his ancestor could live in a sort of a nicer area of London, and the fact that the piano, he was endorsed by a very well-to-do piano maker. Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, and like you say, the coincidence with the musical theatre aspect of it as well. But I thought the big coincidence, the really nice coincidence, was the London connection as a whole as well. I think he was 4 years old when he moved to London, and I think he said that he was sad to be leaving, to be moving to London, because he felt all his family were Northerners, were up north. So I think him discovering that so many years back his ancestors were from London as well, I think that was really nice. I think you could see how much that meant to him, I think, and it probably made him feel, obviously London's been his home for, I'm not sure how old he is, let's just say he's the same age as me, 25 years or whatever it might be that he's been in London, but you could tell it probably made London a bit more homely for him, I think, knowing that he had that ancestral connection to the place. So that was a really nice, and yeah, like I say, the musical theatre aspect, the London aspect, it's just another one of those random coincidences that you find when you're doing family history. You just don't know what's going to pop up that puts today into perspective for you.
Yeah, I found that part very moving. The fact that he said that London felt like the place that he was first accepted, and that's why it's so important to him. He's made it his home now, and to have such a lovely, strong connection to London, I appreciate that he that meant a lot to him, basically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like you say, you could tell that it did clearly mean a lot to him. But during the episode, I was thinking how funny it can be sometimes with Who Do You Think You Are and the celebrities, that you don't know what kind of reaction that they're going to give. You might have an idea, like Andrew Garfield, I thought maybe would be a certain way, or Ross Kemp you think would be a certain way. But with Layton, very little seemed to faze him. Like, he just seemed to take everything not on the chin necessarily, but just he was absorbing information. He was going with it, like the Gazette, the story about the jail, him, the great-grandfather dying quite young. I think he was 55 or something when he died. That just, yeah, nothing seemed to faze him necessarily, which is, it's a good approach with family history, because like we always say, you never know what you're going to find. And he met everything with a level of enthusiasm, I thought.
Yes, and when obviously they made that jump over to Jamaica for that side of his family, I was, he received the information about his ancestor possibly being a slave, very calmly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like he was expecting that to happen, perhaps. But then it was very, very emotional to see him afterwards about, I think it maybe hit him a little bit more. He thought about it a little bit more. And I guess that some parts of your family history will be difficult, and they will be sad, and it won't all be, rose tinted glasses and happiness and love and things like that. That's unfortunately just not what life is. But I like that he said that, it's important not to forget, even if it is sad, because his family came out the other side. And yeah, basically. I'm saying the word basically a lot today.
You have those sessions sometimes, don't you, where you just get to the end and you're like, I must have said like, or basically, or whatever it was, so many times there. But yeah, like I say, I think, yeah, you could tell, I don't know if maybe because it was the end of the episode and it was sort of like the end of the journey, that almost everything that he'd found kind of culminated in this really sad discovery, and the whole thing maybe just kind of hit him at once, where, like I say, he'd been naturally himself throughout, quite happy-go-lucky and very enthusiastic.
The other thing to say is we have the marriage record in Jamaica of his ancestors, Jonathan and Ellen. And if you go on, I'll find the link and I'll just pop it in the chat in a sec. But if you go onto our website, you can see that. I'll just find the link and I'll show you guys. If you follow this link through, you'll be able to see it. About
the Gazettes, about some of the record sets with Ross Kemp last week as well. I think this Who Do You Think You Are is often a reminder about the more sort of niche record sets as well that are out there. I think it's easy to forget that we have Jamaican marriage records, that we have heaps of these Gazettes, that we have the drunken records that they were talking about with Ross Kemp last week. And yeah, sometimes it's, even as the more experienced family historians, it is still easy to get bogged down with your BMDs, your censuses, your newspapers. But yeah, as I say, it's a nice reminder sometimes that these niche record sets are out there and that we have them as well. I always really like when we have a record like that, which you maybe wouldn't have expected us to have. So yeah, it's always a nice reminder.
Overall, I thought it was a very grounded episode, and I thought there was quite a bit of variety there, which was really nice. I would probably have liked to have seen a few more sort of looking at records and things like that. I thought they could have potentially done a bit more of it. But as I was looking up the things myself, the records myself, as I was watching, I realised that there's only so much that they can put into 58, 59 minutes of television.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to go as detailed as they want to if they want to be able to cover, say, 2 or 3 people in his family tree. But yeah, I'd have liked a few more records, I think.
Yeah, sometimes you need to take your family historian hat off when you're watching Who Do You Think You Are, because we're obviously so interested in the records and we want to see the research process, every single record. We want to see the archives, but it is an entertainment TV program at the end of the day as well. So yeah, I always think that as well, but I'm kind of viewing it in 2 minds almost.
I know, but if you want to, if we want to sort of like make family history more accessible to somebody who's not done it before and get them inspired to do it themselves, they might, watch an episode that has no records at all in it and it's just quite story heavy. That they don't see how they could do that for themselves, how they could have that "Who do you think you are" wow moment. Whereas if you showcase, a couple of census records and newspapers and things like that, people might start to think, oh, I can do this for myself, and it maybe is more straightforward than I thought it was going to be.
It's like we said last week about the shot of Ross Kemp sitting at his kitchen table with the tablet out, going back 3 or 4 generations in a matter of minutes. Like say, it's important to have both, like you say, making it seem accessible, because I think for people who don't do family history, it can be easy to watch Who Do You Think You Are and think, oh, they've got a team of experts, look at all these people that they're meeting, they've done it all for them, where you don't realise just how easy it can be sometimes to get back those 3, 4, 5 generations yourself in an evening or as quickly as you like. So, yeah.
Shall we finish up with our tips?
Go for it.
Yeah, so for all of you watching, these are 5 things that we learned from Layton Williams's episode of Who Do You Think You Are? So, number 1, if you've never given your family history that much thought, you are not alone, in my opinion. And if you do decide to pursue it, there's so much waiting for you. And there's a whole world of stuff. It's not all going to be happy, but it'll be interesting. And chances are you will suddenly become the family's family historian and you'll want to tell everybody. And if you've got nobody to tell, come here to our lovely little community and tell us, because we always want to hear it. Number 2, if you're about to start your family history, ask around the family to see if anybody else has already started, if they've already looked into it, see what they've got, compare notes, and just you can then take it from there. Chances are they've even done the foundations. You'll probably want to go double check stuff, but it'll be a really good starting point. Number 3, think about where you came from. What led to you being born where you were born? What is that immediate story? Do you know why you were born where you were born? Basically, it's always worth having a think about. And again, there might be a little bit of a story there for you to unpick. Number 4, it's really rewarding and important, I think, to think about the places where your ancestor came from, where they knew, where they grew up, where they lived, where they worked. So say, for example, they were from Gloucester. What did Gloucester look like when they were living there? So if you can find an address, what did that area look like? I think that's really important to do, and it helps you build that bigger picture. And finally, number 5, not all family history is happy and lovely. Some of it is sad, some of it is difficult, but like with any aspects of history, it's important not to forget. And there's a popular phrase that I'm going to quote here, which is, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And I think it's very important even in family history, because I think that only by understanding our past can we ensure any awful things don't happen again, and we can repeat the fun stuff. Those are my 5 tips.
Amazing. Yeah, it is just so cool how much you do learn from who you think you are. Like you say, just every episode has new tips, new reminders, new record sets, new locations that you learn so much about. So yeah, and like we said at the start, it's been such a good series so far. And I said to you before we went live that we're halfway there. We've got 4 more episodes to go. My calculations are correct. So it's got a lot to live up to the second half of the series, but we will be here every Wednesday talking about it. And like I say, we've been lucky so far. I'm sure we'll continue to be lucky for the rest of the series and have a lot more cool discoveries and great episodes to talk about on a Wednesday afternoon.
I'm sure we will. So yeah, for those of you who are watching live, thank you very much for joining us. If you're watching us on catch up, also thank you very much for joining us. Please do leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode, and catch us same time next week, 4 o'clock on Wednesday, for another Who Do You Think You Are review.
Absolutely. And before I let you all go, just a reminder, we have taken a few breaks recently with annual leave, with illnesses, with a lot going on in the business, but we are back on Friday, or I'm back, I should say. Ellie is off gallivanting once again, leaving me on the lonesome. But I won't be on my own. I do have a special guest. I'm going to hit the schedule button very soon after we finish this live session. So look out for the announcement as to who I'll be speaking to on Friday, and I hope to see you all there. But for now, thank you all very much for joining us again. I will see you on Friday. If not, we will see you same time next week. Have a lovely evening.